Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the SMITE update. A lot of changes went through today, and we're going to see the new god Poseidon, and also have a couple announcements as well. But as always, I'm here with my co-host Octane Pro.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode. Really exciting. We've actually been really lucky. The show itself, with just the amount of content that's come out week after week after week, and you know we're getting closer and closer to release. As you know, there's just so many little tweaks going on. So we'll definitely go over the patch here. Just a few things to kind of go over. This past week, I actually had two viewers contact me. An individual from Vex Gaming, asking to me for go ahead and promote one of their tournaments. So they're actually going to start holding a weekly tournament. So I will go ahead and post the link to that tournament in the chat. Of course, this is a Conquest 5-man tournament. And then finally, the reason I kind of talked about how many people there was the second tournament is actually a SMITE Joust tournament. I'm really happy to see this. Recently, we've seen a lot of tournaments which have just revolved around Conquest. But there's several other game types, and I'm really happy to see jousting actually getting some attention there. It can be, it's very competitive. It's great practice, but I'm very happy to see, something going on here. So I went ahead and linked both of those in the chat. And we'll go ahead and put them in the comments field for YouTube. So please go ahead and check them out. Please support them. I think the Joust tournament hit its 16 number of signups, but it's still going to have availability. So please go ahead and sign up for that. And then I know the Vex Gaming weekly tournament is something that is a fresh startup, but has some sponsor backing. So I'm pretty sure you'll start to see some great sponsor prizes, if not cash there. So please go ahead and check that out. But without further ado, why don't we jump into February 28th patch?
Yeah, pretty exciting that we have a lot more tournaments coming out, and a lot of people are going to get involved with that and really jump in the Joust tournament. It just sounds like it's going to be a blast. Just a lot of fun. Yeah. And there's a lot of gods that you previously couldn't play, but we often, like, you see a Kali or something like that, so it'd be a lot of fun. So big announcement that really, this is something you can tell your friends about, and I'm planning on telling my friends as well, the people that have yet to make the SMITE leap. They have adjusted the content of the SMITE God Pack. This is now called the Ultimate God Pack, and the new word there is pretty fitting. The Ultimate God Pack now includes all gods to be released in the future, including the gods that are released now. So that we're on 31 gods now with Poseidon. Originally it was supposed to be 30 gods. It's now going to be all gods. So you will receive all gods released in the future, including Poseidon. This is pretty cool. This is something that Heroes of North does, that when you pay that initial fee, you will have access to all the gods in the game. It just gives you like a different, but there's still a free-to-play option. Like if you just want to play the game free-to-play, you can. You will have, you'll have access to the 5 permanent gods and the 5 free rotated gods. So if you want to try out SMITE, you can. But you can pay that price to have all the gods and have access to everything. Also, along with this is if you have purchased any gods in the past with favor, when you purchase the Ultimate God Pack, I don't know how long this is going to last. I doubt they're going to carry this on forever, but you will get a refund for the favor you've spent on previous gods. So, I mean, if you've been playing for the last few months, buying gods with favor and nothing but favor, and you bought the Ultimate God Pack, you'd get a bunch of favor back, and you'd have all the gods anyway. So definitely a huge change there, and I'm really excited about that. How do you feel about that?
I'm really happy about it. I can't even like put an exact time as to when I actually purchased the God Pack. Or actually, no, I didn't even purchase it. I thankfully won it through a contest that I did with High Res, just as I actually started to get into SMITE, and actually got it. And it's been awesome to have that the entire time that I've pretty much been playing SMITE. I think it shows a lot of how much the customer value that Hi-Res has. And what I mean by that is, they had pretty much said from the start, oh, this is going to be 30 gods, anticipating that, hey, and this is just, from my understanding is that, hey, we're going to launch probably around 30 gods, so, we'll go ahead and give a god pack until there. And they didn't have to do this, but I think it shows a lot of customer service there coming from Hi-Res. And a lot of value showing, hey, we want you guys to have this. You guys deserved it. I mean, in all honesty, looking at SMITE as a beta and other beta games that I've played, I feel it's extremely successful. What about you? When did you actually, I assume you have a God Pack. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I've had a God Pack for a while. I think I actually got it for without knowing what it was, because I purchased like a whole bunch of gems in the beginning. I actually spent about it was like $30 or $35 in the very beginning of the closed beta, and then when the God Pack was announced, anyone who spent $30 or more in gems was automatically given the God Pack.
Oh, okay.
So I had already, because it was like super cheap. It was like $25 for like 3,000, 4,000 gems. It was a lot. So in the beginning, the beta prices were super cheap, and I was like, I really like this game. I'm gonna be playing it for a while. I may as well spend it now for the cheap price.
Sure.
And then like one day, I woke up and got on Smite, and it was like, you have unlocked the ultimate God Pack, and all the gods were unlocked. I was like, this is awesome. So I didn't even know what it was before then, but definitely pretty awesome for them to introduce that and have that part of it. I've been saving up all my favors, so I'm not really in a situation like where I'm worried about the new gods coming out where I can't purchase them, just because I've had the God Pack for so long. But yeah, it's definitely awesome. Then it allows me to buy more skins and whatever, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been a whore when it comes to skins. I'm like, oh, I have to have it. Like, I need to have all the skins.
And then you play it once.
That's right. I'm like, oh, I don't really play that god as often, but if I'm going to play him or her, I'm like, oh, I want to have that skin because it makes me look legit. So, of course, I go and purchase, use my favor to purchase it. But yeah. So anyways, jumping into one of the most exciting parts of the patch release today, a new god is released, Poseidon. And just going to go over some of his abilities for you guys. I have not yet played him yet. He did come. The patch did come out today, and unfortunately, I didn't have any opportunity to play him yet. But pretty much his passive is called Changing Tides. Poseidon's movement speed increases, and his abilities do additional damage as his tide level increases. Successful basic attack hits increase his tide, and using abilities decrease it. So once again, we're starting to see another god that has a meter associated with some of his abilities and his attacks. I guess my question for you, Drybear, is are you excited about this? A movement speed kind of adjustment depending on the amount of attack speed or attack hits, should I say?
I unfortunately I haven't. Poseidon's released, and if you guys are watching this on YouTube, we're doing this the day of the patch. Just like in the afternoon or early evening when it came out. And unfortunately, because of my schedule, I haven't been able to play Poseidon yet. So I can't really comment too much on how he feels.
Sure.
But conceptually, it's kind of like the Agni effect, where he seems to be a high-paced, very fast action, kind of in-your-face type character. So he will need the mobility and the defense to be able to keep himself alive. It does seem like Poseidon would be a very squishy character. So giving him that building movement speed does really help out with that kind of conceptual design. But again, I'd have to play him in-game and empirically test that out.
Yeah, I'm really I'm eager to see where we're at in a week or two from now, and see is this attack speed pretty balanced? Does it seem to be pretty fitting, or is it kind of OP? So we'll definitely have to see. So furthermore, with his first ability there, Tidal Surge, Poseidon summons forth a wave that travels in a line, dealing damage and pushing back all enemies in his patch. Damage 80, 120, 160, 200, and 240. Plus 70% of your magical power. Cost is 70, 80, 90, 100, and 110, and the cooldown is 12 seconds. Tidal meter is minus 35%. So we're seeing a second god that has that knockback ability. We have Neith, and she has that knockback ability actually with her basic attack. But we're actually seeing this with Poseidon's Tidal Surge. What are your thoughts on this first ability coming out of Poseidon?
Gives him a good push, and pretty much if he didn't have this, he probably wouldn't be able to do the mid lane.
Yep.
So it seems pretty necessary, and it's probably going to be his main poke and main push ability. I like I said, I had to play him in game to see
Sure.
how his other abilities work out, but it's definitely something that does fit with his kind of playstyle.
Yeah, I can see a lot of things getting adjusted just in the future, like the cooldown and the tidal meter, them kind of adjusting and tweaking that as we start to see him played in the next week or two, as those seem like variables that can be easily adjusted. So the second ability of Poseidon is actually Trident. Poseidon activates his Trident, granting move speed and making his basic attacks fire 2 additional shots in a spread for 6 seconds. The shots deal magical damage plus 20% of Poseidon's magical power. All shots increase Poseidon's tide on successful hit. Base damage per hit is 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. His movement speed is 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35%. And the lifetime of this, how long it lasts, is 6%. And the tidal meter, again, is 35% of that tidal meter. and the Tide costs 65, 70, 75, 80, and 85. And finally, the cooldowns start out at 20 and go 18, 16, 14, and 12. So pretty much this is his basic attack, but it goes ahead and replicates itself so that it's almost 3 of his basic attack kind of spread out. And it is for a 6-second period. What are your thoughts on this, kind of taking his basic attack and altering it, kind of like Shablanque?
I can see people building him somewhat tanky in the beginning just because you kind of get in their face. This might lend itself more to like a Polynomicon type build, although only the middle projectile will proc. But generally, if you're going to be in range doing that kind of damage output, you kind of have to expose yourself. So maybe more of an Anubis type feel to it, where you build a little bit tanky in the beginning just because you know you're going to be standing still or getting in their face anyway. So I think this kind of ability is awesome, but it's going to adjust how he's played and how he's built. So I'm pretty excited to have a magic damage dealer that has a lot of focus on being in their face and doing basic attacks and involving themselves that way, kind of like a Fizz would be in like League of Legends or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then finally, his third ability here is Whirlpool, which I'm actually most excited about. Poseidon summons a Whirlpool at his ground target location that cripples the target, preventing movement abilities, and pulls targets towards the center, dealing magical damage every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds. Reduces Poseidon's Tide by 30%. When cast, damage is 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, plus 10% of your magical power. The title meter is 30%, and the cost is 80, 90, 100, 110, and 120. Finally, the cooldown is 15, starting at rank 1, then 14, 13, 12, and 11. So this is very similar in the motion of kind of like Hades' ult, where like it grabs you if you're within the AoE, and then almost tries to pull you towards the center. So what are your thoughts on this mechanic being added to the game in a little different style?
I like it, and it does have the cripple on it as well, which is really important. So I think that's really the main thing. From what I understand, the pull isn't very strong, so it's very easy to just walk off it. I think it's more for minions, for pushing, and also for the cripple effect more than anything else. So it's pretty huge to be able to have that on that. And it again, it applies to the fact that he's going to be in their face, so he'll need some kind of slow or ability to just get himself out if he needs to.
Yeah, he doesn't exactly have a leap or a disengage, so this definitely looks like something that, like, if you get jumped on or something like that, you can pop at your feet and run away, and it will at least slow your opponent and give you a few extra seconds. So I really like it. It's a really good ability for the third there. And then finally, the last ability, which I'm very actually eager to see this graphic, is called Release the Kraken, which is his ultimate. Poseidon releases the Kraken, damaging and slowing targets in its radius. Enemies in the center of the effect, when it spawns, take additional damage and are stunned and bounced into the air. Damage is 120, 150, 180, 210, and 240, plus 30% of your magical power. Damage in the center of this is 180, 220, 260, 300, and 340. And it's a plus 60% of your magical power. The slow is 30%. The stun in the middle area is 1 second, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, and 2 seconds. And finally, the amount that it takes off your title meter is 50%, and the cost for this is 100, 110, 120, 130, and 140. And finally, the cooldown for your ultimate is 90 seconds. So there's a lot to break down here in regards to, there's 2 different variables to keep in mind here. The damage that you take if it's casted if you're directly in the middle of it, or compared to if you're on kind of the outside ring. So Drybear, what are your thoughts on this ability, starting to see some of the numbers?
It's scary. I think it's going to be, even just from the reveal video, you can see it does a lot of damage, heavy burst, and I like the fact that it has a bit of a skill side to it with the central area. It's a lot like Zig's ultimate from League of Legends, where it has like the center area and then the outside area. So planning that out will have a big effect. I like the slow on the outside, and then obviously it has the stun on the inside, so it's gonna be pretty powerful. It's gonna be huge for an ultimate. I was hoping that Poseidon was gonna be a lot like Tidehunter in Dota, where he's a strong initiation ult, and it seems like it would be. If Poseidon can just swag surf his way into fight and then get a good initiation with his ultimate, and then follow up with damage and a whirlpool to prevent people from getting out. It seems like he'd have very scary initiation, which kind of helps him with his being in their face and being squishy at the same time type deal.
Yeah, I can see the combination of his number 3 ability, which is actually the Whirlpool, and this ultimate going together very well. Popping the Whirlpool directly, slows down your opponent and puts them in the center of that Whirlpool. Then bam, pop your ultimate. I mean, and right there, they're taking an immense amount of damage, but then it all comes down to your magical power. So depending on the build that you do, this is going to be very, as you said, very scary. And then on top of that, you have a stun associated with it if you're in the center. So I think this will be quite interesting to see, and we'll have to see, if this is something that takes several patches to get to a perfect balance point, or if we come out of the gates and this is perfectly okay. So, any final thoughts on Poseidon?
Until I get a chance to play him, no, not really. I really am looking forward to playing him. Just getting a video out for him and just messing around with him and having fun. He seems like he'd be a really fun character to play.
Okay.
So we'll hop into the next part here. There's 2 new skins for Smite, and since I do have Smite open, I go ahead and show you that on screen. We'll be seeing Vomana's skin, Lil Mana, here on the screen. You can see that it looks pretty awesome and has like money floating around him as an aura. He has his little phone in his back pocket, nice little hat, and then he's got a bat instead of an umbrella. So really cool skin. This is now available for you guys in Smite. So I mean, it's 600 gems, so it's going to be the same cost as the Sobek skin, since it does have extra effects and spells and all that kind of stuff. So it is, considered a higher value than the general skin you would see, but definitely really cool skin. Have you seen this skin in game, or?
I haven't seen the skin in game. I did see several posts on Reddit. I think it's quite unique. I felt like up to this point we didn't. I mean, I guess once we hit Sobek with the pirate skin, it kind of was like, hey, we can do a little bit of anything. But no, I think it's cool. I think it opens up the doors for high res to kind of, now they can after seeing this skin, they can pretty much do any skin now, and don't have to be worried about theme or adjustments or keeping it to the godlike type of thing. So I don't know. I think they have to watch some of the gods that they use to put some of these skins on, just for offending people. But in my opinion, I could care less, and I think it's awesome. What about you?
Well, I think they've already offended a few people, and I know specifically as far as Hindu goes, there has been some conflict, especially at the first PAX that they went to.
Sure.
There was a lot of issues with that. But I mean, I think as far as fair use goes, I don't think there's any conflict there just yet. There's
Sure.
not a whole lot that they can do about it, although there is going to be, no matter what you do, there's going to be people offended, especially when you tread into religions.
Yep.
So, it's going to be what it is, but it's an awesome skin nonetheless, and I really do enjoy it. And the next skin is going to be the skin for Poseidon here. Check out this. This is normal skin on screen. This is kind of like the green with the shark shoulder and all that. And this is the skin, which will be the 11,000 favor 200 gem skin, which is kind of cool. I mean, it does have a different theme to it. I like it better than some of the reskins they've put out. Definitely has like kind of a regal golden effect to it and changes its trident and whatever. So for a basic recolor, I do like it. What about you?
I definitely do. I feel like they're stepping up their recoloring skins, starting out with just like the last patch that we had with Neith, with her. I think it's Mischievous. I really, really like it, the gold and the black look on her. So I feel like they're taking these recolors and not just like taking the entire god and just making them that color. They're actually, taking the time and putting in the additional time and work when it comes into making just small tweaks that definitely do a big difference. So I like it. I think it's really cool. And once again, I'll probably buy it.
So let's head into the next part. A few big changes. These were originally, they said they were not final, but they ended up putting them in anyway. So a few things here. The first one makes me very happy on the inside. So the first thing is a new option has been added that allows players to choose to only receive matches for their preferred region. Now this will increase the wait time, obviously, but this only also works for casual arena, conquest, domination, and match of the day queues. Which I do believe does not work for ranked. But for specific, casual games, you can say, I don't want to play on any region other than my own, which is a problem that a lot of people have run into, especially me. I mean, I don't think anyone enjoys playing on a server that's across the ocean, or dealing with that extra ping, or playing at 250, 300. If you're in certain regions like Oceanic or Australia, I know there's a lot of areas that don't have server support, so I don't think that's really going to help you too much. But in certain areas where you're on the border between two regions, that will benefit you. How do you feel about this change?
I'm really happy to see it. I personally will use it, as I agree with you. When I do play, I want to make sure my ping is at an appropriate level so I can hit my stuns and other abilities. But I understand the use of it where players that are in certain see, I'd love to. I don't know if it's out there. I don't know about it, but I'd love to see just like a map of the globe in some way that kind of shows the Smite account population to show us, hey, where is Smite? I mean, right now to me, if I feel like Smite is the most of the player base is mostly between North America and EU, but I'd love to see like where it's expanding to start to get an idea, because it would be really cool to see that, and that might be a little bit better understanding as to, hey, why this checkbox is actually necessary. But so far for me personally, I'm definitely going to use it when it comes to pings.
Oh yeah, big benefit, and I hope they bring it to ranked as well. Although it may make the ranked queues much longer than they already are. So
yeah,
I don't know. At their current functionality, it's nice that they're thinking about it. But with how small the game is currently, it's hard to make that something that's just mainstay than anything else, just because of the availability of players and everything. But I'm glad they're thinking about it, because it is very difficult. I know ping is a big issue for a lot of players in a lot of regions, so it's cool that they do have that now. The next thing is the timers have been removed from the queues on casual menu, and they added a new algorithm which has been implemented. This will revert back. They can revert back to time queues if this doesn't work out too well, but they're going to be testing this out yet again. This is the second time they've done this, and originally they were on timed queues or non-timed queues, and then they switched on to the new timed queue system, and then they switched out, and they switched back just because it didn't work out too well. So I guess they're working on the algorithm, which is important. I'm glad for that. So you will not see the timers where a match comes out every 4 minutes or every 5 minutes or every whatever. So you won't see those anymore. They're just going to try and match people as they come in real time, and they tried this before. It didn't work out too well, so hopefully it works out better this time with the amount of people playing and the hours and whatnot, which does make it difficult at late hours of the night, or depending on how the time zones match up, especially with the fact that you can choose your region specifically. So we might see some changes, but I'm glad that they're messing with the queues and trying to make those matchmaking systems a little bit better than they are.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, the reason that they had put the timers into place originally was because what would happen is it would, depending on, it makes it easier with a lower population or a mid population of players that are on, where everyone's sitting there waiting in queue, so it compiles this big group of people, and then all at once you get assigned your matches. This to me hints to me that, hey, Smite's getting to the point where the amount of people looking for matches per minute or per 30 seconds, I don't know, whatever they're looking at, is high enough that they feel now that they don't even need to make you wait 3 to 5 minutes or whatever to go ahead and compile that large group of people. That you're now able to almost queue instantly, and within a few seconds, hopefully, you'll have a match. So I'm really happy. I mean, hopefully they don't have to revert back, and I really hope that this is something that is available due to the fact that they have met a certain population requirement per minute or whatnot. So that's kind of my final thoughts on that.
Absolutely. And the next thing too is they've removed the novice conquest queue yet again, so you can play with players who are low level. They did originally have this so that players who are between the levels of 1 and 6 or 1 and 5 will not have the ability to play with players who've been playing for a long time. So it kind of gives you like an ease of access when you jump into the game and start learning it. This has been removed and now remerged with the regular conquest queue. So if you have level 1, you can play with anybody you want. So it hurts and helps at the same time, but it does allow people to play with their friends when they're level 1. So it's nice to have that option as well. Do you have any experience with that?
Not necessarily, but I'm just wondering, like, I would love to see some explanation on some of these, just so as a community we understand, what they're thinking, especially for something like this. Was this removed because of the fact that there wasn't enough players within this novice conquest queue, and so the queues were having problems fulfilling full matches and stuff, or did they find that the casual queue was suffering because of this, and they're now merging them together because they've removed the timer? I just love an explanation on this. It would be really nice to see, we're trying this because of this, and if it doesn't work, we can always revert back or whatnot. But that's on my final comments on that. What about you?
We'll see, and I think they will eventually put it back for release so you can separate those players out. But I think it's nice for, you invite your friend to Smite, and he's like, I really want to play, so you hop in, but, I can't play with you until you're level 6, so have fun. Or maybe you have to make a new account or whatever. So this does help players get into the game during the beta, and I think they'll reintroduce the novice queue for release.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to see these things in there. I want to see some of the separation of skill level because of the fact that I think it's more fair, it's more balanced for especially new players to be going against other new players and not be going against mid-experienced or very experienced players. So hopefully this is something that we do see return to the game. Another alteration that we had in the game was actually we had some domination changes. The following modifications have been made to the domination game mode. Many of these changes were made based on community suggestions. So I'm really happy to see that they noted that in there. Hey, this is due to community recommendations. If minions make it to their goal and are not removed from the map, they will heal 3% of the maximum health of any friendly Sand Guardian in their lane. I don't know how much of this type of game type you play, but what are your thoughts on a heal actually for the Sand Guardian?
I don't know. I mean, the game mode is pretty fickle. It does seem like physical carries towards the end game can really control the game a lot because they can kill the Guardians very easily. So adding a heal is different. And it seems like they're just trying to make the game. I don't know, because we'll see a change that came in a little bit later as well for normal conquest, and it seems like they're trying to either drag the games out or make it a little less delicate as far as the game mode goes. So it seems like they're trying to adjust that mechanic themselves.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't play a ton of this game type, but I'm definitely gonna, I definitely will test it out to see, some of these changes and see what my thoughts are versus what I've tried in the past. Another alteration to this was Sand Guardians take only half damage if they do not have a current target to prevent player AoE chipping. Minions count as a target. Any thoughts on this, or not really anything too extravagant?
No, that was really important. So you could easily just, if you're Alqual, you could run up and throw a tornado on it before there were minions there, and the tornadoes would just do damage to it while it was sitting still. It was just basically just free damage you could do, or a rock could shoot laser beams or whatever. You could outrange it and damage it without being anywhere near it or having minions there. So it kind of sucked that some characters had the capability and others didn't. So I'm glad they put that in.
That's true. That's quite balanced there to kind of help out some of your physical characters that don't have that AoE ability. Finally, another third change here: the respawn time of Sand Guardian is accelerated for each friendly standing in the radius. So now we're starting to see, even here once again, we're starting to see some environmental changes that, depending on your position on the map, hence being next to the Guardian, actually accelerates it. Do you think this was necessary and there's a strong need for it?
It's a small one, and the time for the Sand Guardian to respawn is not really that huge. But I'm wondering, how much is the acceleration? If it's going to be a whole lot, like does it spawn almost instantly now? Because if you have multiple people there doing it, it's kind of annoying when it's like really close and you have a bunch of players standing on it, and it just takes a while for him to slap his hand down and emerge out of the sand and slowly stand up and then growl and yell and then whatever. So possibly he'll just come out instantly and start shooting people, which is important. There's a lot of times where it does come down to the wire and you have to wait for him to come out, but it's not really that big of a deal. I'd have to see how that does get implemented.
Okay, and then finally, the last alteration to the game type was the point capture radius has been increased to cover the entire water area around the capture point. If you are on the water or inside it, you will be on the point. So any thoughts on that final alteration?
It's important because, if they had, CC or anything like that, you could root someone or stun someone off of the point, and even if you killed the Sand Guardian, if the enemy stood on the point, they could capture it, so it's kind of like a neutral thing when it gets killed. So there was, some advantages that some guides could have by CCing people off the point, or pushing them off, or Arachne could pull them off, or whatever, or Hercules could drive and strike them off, and an ally could go and grab it. So it's kind of like a King of the Hill type thing. I guess this will remove that, and basically just whoever's in the area gets the point, and it's gonna be more of a epic fight for it, and maybe a true King of the Hill with a bigger hill this time, versus it being kind of just a little bit less cheeky, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I like the alteration. I think it definitely is like a little fine-tuning, but I think it's necessary. I mean, he definitely should get credit where credit's due compared to just being directly on top of that Sand Guardian. So those were the last changes right there.
Absolutely. So head to the next part. This is going to be the general section, and some of these changes are pretty controversial and big stuff coming out for them. But let's see what we can get here. Players in teams of 3 can queue up for the practice arena. So, it's kind of like facing the raw bot 1v1. Now you can queue up with 2 friends and practice against the Artemis bot and the Emir bot and and the raw bot and whatever. So if you wanted to queue up with your friends and practice against those bots and have that that CPU interaction, you can now have it with friends. So that's a pretty big functionality they added there. Have you tested this or any thoughts on it?
I haven't tested it, but I did test originally where you could queue into arena with 2 bots versus 3 additional bots, and I think it's a really good idea. The reason being is I think this is very one, you can start to practice some of your combinations with some maybe even lane partners or groups of people and see certain orders and how things stack up. But two, I think this is awesome for beginners. A lot of games you look at, you have the ability to play against the computer with your friends in a non-competitive environment. And this is exactly what this is. So I'm very happy to see this. This is very friendly towards beginners. And I love to see more things like this that could help. Some people don't like competition, and it kind of scares them away. So I'm very happy to see this. What about you? What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a good introduction. It also allows people to test out strategies and working together. And on lane comps, like if you have one friend, you want to queue up for the bot arena and test out, your new lane comp and practice combinations and whatnot. It does seem like a good introduction for new players and ways for you to test it without having to do like a joust or anything like that.
Okay, cool.
So the guides menu has been significantly upgraded, and I have SMITE open so we can check this out. You see the guide section here. There's a character builder now, which allows you to configure different item and ability builds on a god, and then view the stats of that god in the build. So it's kind of like more of a different thing. So let's go ahead and go on through and just kind of run through a test run of this. We can just pick up Hebo, why not? You can see up here we have these auto purchases here. You can set this up, default items, and it tells you the total cost. You can select what abilities you want to get in what order, mixing those around, have priority there in 1, 2, 3, 4. So default priorities, and so you can see how it switches around. So you want to max out Crushing Wave first, then you want to do Water Spout, then you switch those around and it switches the abilities. You can see as you mess around with it, you can level up the character 13, 14, you go all the way up to 20. It tells you what your stats are, what your total magical power would be. You can switch out the items. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can come in here and buy items. It's pretty involved. Say you want Pythagoras piece, slap that down. Get rid of the rod, pick up Death's Toll on Hebo. Why not? So you can test around and have fun with these and kind of really test out the characters. Kind of like a really interesting builder that allows you to figure out the characters, and this is now in the game on the main screen. If you go to the guides next to the TV button, you can really pick that up and start messing around with the characters. So it's pretty awesome they add this, and it's kind of been a long time coming. Have you had a chance to play with this at all?
I haven't had a chance to play with it as I just got home from work a little bit ago, but I'm very happy to see it. I read about it. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm not saying that this game patented it, but this reminds me definitely of back in the days when I used to play WoW, and I'd always be interested in, what gear is going to be best for different situations? Where's that going to put me out with stats, stuff like that. So this completely reminds me of it. Not saying that like WoW patented it or anything like that, but I'm very happy to see this. I think it's really, really cool. Once again, it's very user and beginner friendly, but furthermore, I mean, it's great even as a mid or tier or experienced player to be able to go in there and make adjustments to see, okay, where can I maximize let's say my magical power, or if I swap this item out, wow, I gain this much on top of it, because we haven't really had a visual spot to be able to go in and test this that's not directly in a game, and so I'm very happy to see something like this. So I think it's super cool. I'm really eager to see what they do with it. And how far they can go with it to make it as realistic as possible. But so far, I'm very happy about this alteration.
Absolutely. It seems like a really cool addition. And, as people play with it and be involved with it, it's going to be adding. It doesn't seem like you can save anything just yet. Okay. They might have that functionality where you can save it to certain, you can see we can just default and do all that. But it does seem like they will have an option. The save priorities and save item set button is there. It's just grayed out, so you can't use it just yet. But it is pretty cool that they have that functionality. And I guess in the future, you'll be able to pre-build your default set for that character, and then hopefully it'll load it into game. I mean, they have, if you go to the characters overview and then you go to items, I mean, there's like recommended items, and then in the beginning of the beta, they had an option where you could, there was a button that didn't work, but you could set the default for the character. So it doesn't seem like they want people to be able to build their own builds and use them in game and have them set up ahead of time, which is pretty cool. It doesn't seem like that functionality is there currently. And one other thing too, it does seem like the timers are back on the queue. I don't know if there was an issue. The patch notes do say that they are gone, but they're still here. So I guess they ran into something there and had some trouble with that. But there are still timers here at the time of this recording anyway, and we'll see what they decide to do with that.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm really happy to see, like as you talked about there, having additional tabs in game where you can import them from the guide section directly into the game. I think it's really, really cool. I mean, I understand that a lot of items and abilities are very situational, depending on who you're laning with and who you're going against. But it would be very cool to have the ability to have, for each god, you had 3 tabs that could be, heavy DPS and magical, a hybrid build, and then like a tankier build, or depending on your god. So I'm very happy about this. I'm eager to see how soon we get this, or if this will be something that we see down the road after launch.
We'll see. And it does seem like they want to add that functionality, and the system they have in Heroes New Earth I really do enjoy. It's kind of like community builds type thing where you can look up builds voted by people, and it's kind of like having a website embedded in the game while you're playing. So the next thing here is they changed the instant casting mode. They added tick marks to it, so we can see if we can't just go ahead and add in that ability. So we're gonna go from normal casting to instant casting here. You can see this is the ticker that you would get. Originally it was just like a little blue arrow on the ground that you could use, but now you can see there's distance markers and all that kind of stuff. You see the 55 is where originally your Hercules could do his throw. Now that got reduced down to about 40, but you can see there's kind of like this nice little marker here. So let's see if we can't get one of each ability and show that off. The difference is normal casting gives you the indicator. Quick casting will give you the indicator when you hold down the button, and then when you let go it'll shoot. However, with instant casting, when you click it, it goes. There's no option there for that. That's the difference between the 3 casting modes versus quick holding it down and letting it go. But instant will just go. You can see the distance and the marker, which is pretty cool. It does seem like you can show exactly where it's going. Obviously, with things like Locust, Plague of Locust, it will just go. But it's kind of cool to have this, especially for the grasping hands. You can shoot it all the way out there and tells you exactly how far you can shoot it. And I'm sure different characters, they have range indicators. But this is actually pretty cool, and I might actually start using instant casting now that they have this.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that they kind of show that distance there. Reason being is just with some abilities, as you as you approach in the laning, you're trying to catch someone off guard or cast something. You're not 100% sure if it's going to hit them, depending on the distance. And so this is really cool to see. Like, hey, but on the other side of the factor, I'm like, really, like, we're really starting to add in like rangefinders built into the game, so we can go ahead and have that distance in there. Sometimes it's nice that it comes down to skill or experience for these things. But do you think they're overdoing it with having some of the range actually listed for you preemptively? Or no, do you think that they haven't crossed that line
I think this is kind of important. I think if you have a very vast understanding of the game, instant casting can do a lot of great things. And the problem was before the actual, the instant casting was interesting and where it goes. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it does work out. I mean, the distance is nice because it's kind of hard to tell exactly where you're going to be able to go with the items and whatever. If you try using instant casting, you're messing around with that. It's pretty cool. So we'll see how it gets used, but I don't think the range being listed. And this is kind of like the first time we've ever seen it. I mean, obviously you can see that 55 there, which is where Hercules' Earthbreaker was, so about that far. Now it's reduced to about there. So actually a little bit less. It's like right there. So definitely interesting that they're adding this, and I'll see how people end up utilizing it if they can utilize it to their fullest. But it's pretty cool that they're adding this and testing it out anyway.
Sure, definitely.
So the last thing here is on challenge match creation, there is now a random pick option under God picking method. So I guess they're going to be having all random, all mids now, which is pretty cool. So it seems like they're adding more functionality. Once they did introduce the settings available for individual matches and all that kind of stuff, it was pretty cool. People kind of took to it immediately. They were really enjoying the things that you could do with it, all the stuff that you can mess around and have all kinds of fun with it. So it did seem like a lot of people were enjoying it and putting all their efforts into it, having like hoarder matches and conquest and playing around with that, and streamers were doing it all the time. So I mean, it does seem like Hires is listening and looking at the fact that once they added that custom ability, people are really jumping on it. So they're kind of milking that out. So it's pretty cool that they're adding that now. I guess we'll have like an all random type games, which is cool, and a lot of people have been asking for random availability for quite some time now. So I'm excited to get that into the game.
Yeah, I'm eager to see how far they take the random ability. I mean, it would be really cool in like certain casual games to jump in and have just like a little box where the god should be with a question mark, and you just click on it and it randomly selects your god. And I understand, this can frustrate people a lot when it comes down to that. And it would be great for this to be added into casual. Some type of mode that you could elect to do or vote on, or something that when you jumped into casual, everybody was random, so it wasn't just challenge matches. But I guess it all depends on their approach and how they're exactly going to do it. So pretty cool either way. Another change that we had here was minor visual adjustments have been made to the item tooltips. I haven't had a chance to see that. Have you seen anything just yet or not yet?
Just small little
Okay.
fixes and visual adjustments because some of them kind of bugged out or didn't have anything fancy there. So
Sure.
just cool little things added to it.
Okay. We've also seen several bugs and deserter status have been fixed. I know that there was a lot of problems there where people were kind of concerned and having problems with problems with deserters. So hopefully this has kind of rectified that problem once and for all. Made a variety of sound priority changes, which should better ensure that the more important audio cues play during busy gameplay. And I hear a laughter there. What are your thoughts there?
I'm wondering if this has to do with Ao Kuang's Slither ultimate interaction. I'm thinking that's what, and I think that's pretty much the big one that was there, and I can hop in and see if Ao
Sure.
Kuang has that kind of deal, and as we go through these changes.
Sure.
But I'm pretty sure that's basically just because of Ao Kuang's ultimate interaction.
Possibly. We'll definitely check that out. And while he gets that up, I'll continue through some of these here. Dead minions now sink into the ground when their bodies are cleaned up. I don't even recall what they did before. Do you?
Sometimes they would stick, or they just lay there and they just disappear.
Okay. So either way, making adjustments to these little fine tunings. Happy to see that. Wards now have better visual indicators of friendly versus enemy. I haven't seen this yet, but I definitely understand it because I've run past wards very quickly at times and swung at them, thinking, I'm going to pass by it, swing at it. Not sure if it's mine or not, but we'll see what happens as I'm quickly approaching it. Do you think that there need to be some adjustments made to wards or no?
Oh God, yes. Oh, it was just, and I think there should even be visually, you could just by the color of it, not looking
Sure.
at the bar, and especially for both of us shoutcast and watching spectated games, you're like, is that okay? That's for that team. It needs to be immediately available exactly what's going on with that,
Sure.
and what's being used there. So it's important to have that available and have people realize which ward is this? Can I destroy this? What's going on with that? So it's pretty important to have that in there.
Yeah, I mean, they went ahead and made an adjustment to the towers to make them the distinction between the two, very different when it comes to the coloring and surrounding items. So maybe we'll start to see that with wards. Maybe they'll start to make wards a little more solid compared to transparent. Maybe we'll start to glow red or be a nice solid red and versus blue. I don't know, but maybe this is just a step in the first direction there. So have you had a chance to get up AO just yet or not yet?
Not level 5 yet, so just keep
Okay.
on rolling.
Okay, no problem. So another adjustment we had here while Dry Bear goes ahead and does all the hard work when it comes to playing Smite. The tutorial has had an artistic makeover to better fit with the art style in the new Conquest map. I don't know if you've played it yet. I don't know that I've ever played the tutorial, to be honest. Have you? Have you ever played this?
Yeah, and we can hop into that a little bit later, but
Okay.
it's just, I don't know, it seemed to work out pretty well. I didn't think anything wrong with I played through it just a little bit. I didn't mess with it too much, but it did seem like it had some interesting effects to it. It had its own little area, its own little build and whatever, so it was pretty cool.
Okay. And then following that there, when lane minions die, they will play a variety of different kinds of deaths depending on the god ability that killed them. So this is pretty cool. It's just additional kind of effects that aren't necessary, but it's really very, very cool, at least to me, to see that they're putting additional time into something like this. And then we had the trees in the Conquest map have undergone visual adjustments. And I assume this is talking to the more three-dimensional view of the trees compared to the very crappy, should we say, look of the two-dimensional. Have you had a chance to, or have you seen the trees recently?
Not yet, and from what I understand, they are like cauliflower trees. I think these are the regular trees. I don't know if these are the upgraded ones or not.
Okay.
But I think they just made them look like a little bit more vivid in 3D than anything else. Kind of just changed them up a bit. So I haven't really looked at them, but from what I understand, they look like cauliflowers. So.
Alrighty, and then they fixed a bug in which users would not be able to use the free rotating gods in some instances. So I completely understand this fix right here. Players that are new to the game that are only playing the free gods that rotate, if they can't play some of them in certain situations, I can see that as kind of a turn off to the game. Oh, well, you're forcing me to go ahead and buy additional gods because I can't play some of the free rotating ones. So, did you think I mean, did you run into this at all or see this?
A lot of people were messaging me and asking me how to fix it or how to go about it or whatever. I haven't really encountered the problem myself because I have the God Pack, but a lot of people were having this issue, so I'm glad that is fixed now. And it seemed like a pretty big issue, not the biggest, but definitely had a lot of people talking to me about it and asking about it, so it was really important there. And I do have it in game, so let's see if it does work out. I have the instant cast, which I never use, so let's see if we can do this.
Your middle tower is under attack.
I know my middle tower's under attack. Be quiet. It actually works. It still works. So I guess that didn't change the effect. And you did see, actually, did you see that? That was a different ultimate for the skin.
I did. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I guess Ao's skin now has that new ultimate. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's nice to see a little difference there depending on the skin. And then finally here, you can now view the profile and stats of persons that have requested to be your friend on the Friends tab under the social menu. And so that's kind of cool. A nice little feature there to kind of integrate things a little bit more. And then finally, stealth players should no longer be revealed outside of the base interior. I didn't run into this at all. Have you?
It's fascinating. I guess it does help with obviously defending if you're being attacked or anything like that. So it's pretty important to be able to have that kind of functionality going through. So I mean, it's pretty cool, and it does make it easier to defend. But again, a very small change. Let's see. Stealth players no revealed. Yeah, I guess so. So I guess it's more just for defense than anything else. So it's pretty fascinating. I might have to test this out to see how far this goes as far as interacting in the game. But it does seem like just helps out with. I mean, because you could just go into the enemy base, put down some wards, and then players like Loki would just have a tough time with that.
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much the end of some of our general changes that were done this past week. I didn't know. I thought there was there one other spot that you wanted to look at and bring up, or no? Was there? Oh, the tutorial. You had mentioned possibly bringing that up.
Nah, we just keep on rolling here.
Sure,
so Spectator changes, which is a small. Obviously, for people that don't have Spectator, this isn't really help too much. It does carry over to the replays if you watch replays. So pretty cool stuff there. They added options tab in the settings menu, so you can now adjust some of the Spectator stuff. So if you're curious about that, so if you go to settings here, you see there's a Spectator tab. You have a separate set of controls, which would be different from your regular in-game controls. You can also change the names of the teams you're going into. So friendly team, enemy team. You can change those names in the settings. You can also add in, gold, damage, heals, experience, crits, outlines, and have different colored outlines for the players. So a lot of cool stuff they added there. So they added that in the settings, and they also fixed an issue where players on the red team were having their nameplates invisible when they were not in line of sight of the spectators, so you just see their outline or whatever. So a lot of interesting stuff there. And then when Loki is stealthed and on the red team, his character mesh is now visible. So this is something that would happen in a replay or a spectator. Loki would vanish and literally vanish. He was just completely invisible, and then he'd appear out of nowhere, which is kind of cool for like cool effect. But you really needed to know where Loki was when he was stealthed, which you couldn't see without looking at the map. So it was pretty important to add it in that functionality. They also made it so the in-game clock on the scoreboard is now synchronized with the playback clock, which is awesome. So now there's no separation between those two. They fixed an issue where the game could crash when spectating Neath. I didn't encounter that because I didn't expect to take too many with Neath, and I did a couple, but it didn't seem to happen to me. They also made it so clicking the end match time on the playback bar will hide the time, so now there's no need for the spoiler covers or anything like that, which is important. So anything that you see there for the spectators that really sticks out to you?
I'm really happy to see that they're. I mean, and this is just like little stuff, but for someone like yourself and me that actually do some casting, the fact that now the team names are kind of integrated in is really cool. I'm happy to see that. I guess the question I have, which I don't know if you know, but I'm just kind of putting it out there, is let's say you're casting a replay. Can you then hit escape, go in, and if you don't have spectator mode, can you still go in and name that team? Or is that just isolated to spectators?
I don't know. I don't know about that. One thing we can just check that really quick.
So that's what I wasn't sure about. Was like, okay, if you're just John Smith and you would like to do a replay and you want to throw the teams up there to make it easier for you to look at, can you do that? That was my one thing there. But I'm very happy to see that, especially with some of the other adjustments that they did make. I like that they're starting to make things geared, especially for spectator and replay stuff, make it geared towards some of the esports community. Oh, they're noticing that, people like Dryberry here, when they do casting, he's got to go in and set the team name on his XSplit or OBS overlay every single time. And so I'm really happy to see that they're making small little adjustments to this. And I'd be really interested.
You can do it in replay.
You can.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I guess my question there, though, is that just because you have spectator access? I'm wondering if someone who doesn't have spectator access can still do that.
I wouldn't see that. I wouldn't see a reason for them to separate it like that. And these outlines are intense. Look at that. Look how thick that outline is. This is all the time.
Did you check that off then?
Yeah, I did. I checked all of them.
Wow.
So that's just like
pretty ridiculous.
Outlines, crits, gold. Yeah, you can see like the regeneration stuff too as they regenerate, and they'll see gold over their head and all kind of little scrolling combat text effects all over the business. But this outline's like super intense. Like this is like if you had any question before, this guy's blue. This is blue.
Yeah, that'll be kind of crazy. Like once you get giant team fights, and if you don't slow it down, it's just this merge of colors flying all over the place. That's cool. That's exciting. It's fun to see little things like this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, jumping on to our next section here is jungle camps. Gold, and more specifically, Gold Fury. Starting health has been reduced from 3,500 to 3,000. Additional health per minute has been increased from 230 to 240. So the starting health has been decreased, and then we have an increase per minute for the health earned. Did you think that there was a problem with Gold Fury that they needed to make this adjustment?
I don't think it needed to be done in tandem with the adjustment that they did in this patch as well, which we'll cover in a little bit here. But it's just one of those things where they want to make sure that the objectives are picked up sooner. And generally, I mean, you see in League of Legends really the only other analog in other mobile games that has that kind of secondary big objective other than the Baron, the Roshan, the Kongor, the Fire Giant type thing. So I mean, you do see Dragon getting picked up super quickly. I'm usually by like level 6, level 7. Generally does get delayed in some matches. I mean, it seems to be pretty risky, so it does seem like they want it to be easier in the beginning and then scale up back to where it was originally. Let's see, per minute an extra 10. So I guess no, that's like nothing. After 10 minutes it'll gain 100 HP. So it's really I mean, you'd have to be like late game for it to be even close to what it was before. So it's going to be much weaker overall at pretty much all stages of the game. So it's going to be a lot easier to take. And I wonder if there's going to be, Arachne, Bastet, Kali, all those Monkey, if they get enough lifesteal. But it's more specifically Arachne and Bastet who have the cats and the spiders to solo. Probably we'll see them soloing it more often.
That's a very good point there, just because of the fact of the adjustment to the starting health. So for abilities and consumables, some of the changes in this patch. New ability, Motivate. Using the ability grants 30 physical and magical protections and doubles the health of allied minions in a radius for 10 seconds. The cooldown is 90 seconds. So we'll just kind of go over that one first. Happy about this? Didn't think it was necessary? Man, what do you think?
I don't know. It's interesting, and I like to see it used. It does seem like it'd be more for push lineups, so you can do like a full push lineup. We do see this a lot in Dota more than anything else. Is just a team that's more specified for being able to finish the game before anyone can get farmed. So this might, if you get like 2 or 3 of these things and just push down towers constantly, it might work out that way to have that, be part of the lineup. So this might change some of the meta, and it does seem like it does help out. And it would probably help out some characters, or even allow characters to go in the mid lane that normally couldn't, So we'll see how that does affect. Again, this is an item that does replace one of your active slots, and you can't sell active items. So it does need to have some potency to it to be able to warrant the fact that you're losing an active item. So we'll see how it does get used. So it's a lot like an analog for Promote in League of Legends, but it's an AoE type thing. So it's an interesting item, and I'm curious to see how the brilliant minds of SMITE put it to use.
Yeah, I'm a little scared though. Roman range can be quite dangerous sometimes. So this will be quite interesting to see how it goes.
Oh God!
I know, right? On to our next item. We're seeing Aegis Amulet have an adjustment to it again. The cooldown of this ability has been increased from 150 to 180. So we have seen adjustments made to this item time and time again, and the same thing has actually been done to Purification Beads and Sprint. With Purification Beads, we did have this ability now removes roots as well. It also removes the new cripple status. So overall, these adjustments to these 3 items up to 180 now Do you see any problems with this, or do you see this as something that needed to get put into the game?
It needed to be. 150 was a little bit too short for those 3 items, and then pretty much, I mean, with the cooldown and the effectiveness of those items, it pretty much was like those 3 items were picked up more than anything else. If you look at the repository, as far as items that were bought, those 3 items just topped all the charts because they're so good. I mean, there was really nothing to beat them as far as effectiveness, cost, and cooldown. So they did need to be reduced. 180 seems like a healthier number, so we'll see how that does get adjusted. A few of them might get changed higher, but I do like the fact that those got increased in cooldown.
Yeah, definitely. And then our last 2 items here, we'll start with the first one. Hand of Gods now kills any jungle monster, including the Fire Giant and Gold Fury, when they are below 10%. So this is huge, especially for Hand of the Gods, where Hand of the Gods was definitely an item we saw which we would pick up in early game, but then the use of it would kind of fall off towards end game. Now we're seeing a very large value to actually having this. A lot of the times, the past week or so, I've seen two competitive teams going head-to-head. One team wipes to a degree, and so the other team jumps in on Fire Giant and is working on it, and then all of a sudden the other team comes in, and it comes down to like a 5 to 10 second difference of timing of if the Fire Giant's captured, if they decide to pull out and to reset. What are your thoughts on this adjustment for below 10%?
And again, this goes back to the fact that Gold Fury is weaker now, and the fact that you can finish them off at 10% means we're probably going to see characters like Bastet or Arachne or Wukong or anyone with lifesteal being rotating on that Gold Fury every 5 minutes and getting that big gold increase. It worries me a little bit as far as that, but it kind of gets away from the lineup where people just come in and steal all the time, or there's like people just start the objectives willy-nilly rather than having it to be I'm guaranteed to get this objective before they can get here type thing. So it does seem like junglers are going to be more prevalent now with this Hand of the God change, and we'll probably see more Gold Fury with the combination of the Gold Fury change and this Hand of the God change. We'll probably see more junglers working in constant Gold Fury rotations and getting more gold, and this might end up speeding up the game, and with another change that's coming up soon. I keep saying this, but this whole patch kind of ties together. We'll probably see more objective use rather than just straight farming type thing.
Sure. And then for the final item changes here, I'll go through all of them at once. For wards, the price has been increased from 50 gold to 75. Wards can now detect players and enemy wards at the same radius. The maximum number of wards that you can carry has been reduced from 5 to 3. And wards now only detect things that are in line of sight of the ward. So a lot of changes there. Thoughts on those?
I think it was necessary. The wards were, it literally, you can attest to this, and every time I spectate a match, you look at the map, and it's just like the map has acne. It's just like there's just dots everywhere. There's just wards all over the place because they're so cheap. You can max them out constantly. So it did seem like that gold increase is going to help out a lot. The fact that it's line of sight means you can't really, it's going to focus. So this all ties in together very, very effectively. So number one, it means you only have 3 wards at a time. The wards are now more expensive, and they're based on line of sight. So what that does is limits you to the amount of wards you have and also how much money you commit to wards. So there will be support that will specifically be committing to wards. There'll be more of a ward mule type effect here. But the other benefit too, the fact that it has line of sight means that the ward positions will be more key. It's very important that you stick to specific ward spots rather than just kind of throwing them around the map, because you'll have line of sight in a complete true vision 360 radius. So the fact that the ward spots are now more important and more specific to certain areas, this means that counter warding is going to be more prevalent, just because if the ward spots are more limited based on their line of sight, there's going to be optimal ward spots, but this will prevent people from just throwing wards everywhere, just because there's no downside to, putting in the damage buff or putting it behind the Fire Giant or putting it behind the Gold Fury or putting it in between lanes or like in the back of minion camps or whatever. So that damage spot where you put the ward in the damage buff camp won't really be viable anymore because you won't really see anything because of the line of sight, which means you'll have to force your wards to be out in the open, which means counter warding will be more prevalent. So I think support will have more of an important role here, and they'll commit more to warding than being the big fatty support tanks that they are. So we'll see how this does affect the meta, and I think this is a lot bigger change than most people realize.
Yeah. I'm eager to see, especially this upcoming weekend with some of the tournaments, see kind of how that affects some of the line of sight in general and catching junglers and such.
Absolutely. So this is a pretty big thing. One thing that just got brought up in chat, this is important to note.
Sure.
Since the Hand of the Gods does kill 10% of the buff, where the Gold Fury only has 3,000 HP starting now, it does seem like 10% would be 300, which the Hand of the Gods does that amount anyway. So I mean, it's like the 10% isn't really going to be a big benefit to killing the Gold Fury than it was before. You
Sure.
could easily finish that off with the base damage of Hand of the Gods. So it does seem like it would be more for Fire Giant than anything else. And even with the scaling, I mean, 230 per minute. It's the Gold Fury will. This is gonna be in the beginning, so the Hand of Gods won't be there for killing in the beginning. But as the game goes on and on and on, the Gold Fury will get stronger. So as the Gold Fury gets to about 5,000 HP or 6,000 HP, then it'll start being more
Sure.
beneficial. So maybe more for late game, and then early game Fire Giants as well. So the early game, the Hand of the Gods won't really affect too much.
Excellent.
So going to the next part, this is the items section as items got adjusted here. The first one is Death's Toll. The physical power has been increased from 10 to 15. It's not a whole lot there, by just trying to make Death's Toll a little bit more powerful. One of the biggest gripes that I have is that Mark of the Vanguard is so good, but it's really the only starting early game item that has widespread effectiveness, and it's more of a tanky item than anything else. So I was hoping there'd be like early game items. Death's Toll being increased a little bit does help out with that. Have you ever bought a Death's Toll?
I have. This will be nice to see. Especially because of the physical power adjustment. I mean, 10 to 15 makes it something that we're going to see maybe a little bit more and more of because of the adjustment to the physical power.
Right. So we'll see if people end up buying this more often or not.
Yep.
The next thing is Fatalis. The passive now makes it so that you no longer move slow when you are moving backwards, which is fascinating. So, look at the passive here. Each base attack hit increases your movement speed and attack speed, obviously the original passive that it had. But also, you no longer move slower when moving backwards. So if you want to just moonwalk across the map, you can. You'll go full speed when you're going backwards. So this is an interesting passive, and this might actually be picked up more just for that. And Fatalis, historically has been an item that, for the cost and the effectiveness, doesn't really provide much for overall damage output and really doesn't get picked up on many characters. I think the only few characters that does have effectiveness on is Bakasura and Freya, who benefit from the attack speed more than anything else does affect their overall damage, because they do true damage on Bakasura, and then obviously the damage output from Freya on Irradiate and Pulse, and sometimes on Zeus if you're going for damage output on the basic attacks, but it hasn't really been picked up too much. So I'm wondering if this passive means that you can position yourself, you can constantly be shooting out base attacks while going full speed, means that ranged physical carries will pick this up more often.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Someone like Artemis getting focused by a Sobek, and the Sobek's super low, and the Artemis is trying to run away, to meet up with another person, can still run away backwards and continue to shoot to do additional damage. I think it's pretty cool. I'm definitely eager to see it in play here in the next week or two.
Absolutely. So the next item that they updated was Hide the Nemean Lion, and this is a really big change. People have been complaining about this item for so long. If you look at the original cost for Hide the Nemean Lion was 1950 gold at max rank. The max rank is now 2250, so a 300 gold increase for the Hide the Nemean Lion. But as you can see, it still has the exact same stats it always has. It's just now more expensive, so you can't pick it up as early, which I think was a pretty important change. It was a little bit too easy to get a hold of for how effective it was. So either they need to make it less effective or just make it cost more. So we'll see if this does help with the current meta being picked up with Hide of the Nemean Lion and encountering a lot of characters, or forcing physical carries to buy 2 lifesteal items when originally they only wanted 1, just to counter that extreme reflection of the Hide of the Nemean Lion.
Yeah, I'm actually happy to see them not just go ahead and make a nerf to the Nemean Lion. I'm happy to see. I think it was a wise decision to increase the cost of it, so it's something you get later on and not necessarily so early. I'm happy about it. Hopefully this will do it for it, and we won't need to see any adjustments to the stats.
Absolutely. Another big nerf, speaking of physical protection, to Mark of the Vanguard. It was originally 155 HP here. You can see now that it's 100 HP, so 55 HP loss. About 33% of its overall effectiveness got lost there for the Mark of the Vanguard. So this makes this item much less useful in the beginning, and we'll see, does this mean that it's going to stop being picked up by mages because it's in the side lanes or even the mid lane? We did see a lot of mages picking this up. just because it just gave you such good survivable. Especially, I mean, this was kind of like a common item for Freya, especially with low survivability in the side lanes, or even Hebo or Anubis, or all the characters that do go in the side lanes. Squishiness is kind of like a mainstay item that everyone did pick up for survivability. So it's pretty important to have this item. But does this? We'll see if this does reduce it down. This is a pretty big nerf to the Mark of the Vanguard. 100 HP is not a lot. But it's almost a little bit less effective than the cost you're paying for it. But we'll see if it still gets picked up as much. I doubt it will, but this is a pretty big nerf to the item.
Yeah, that the item was turning into this meta when you started to see like 8 out of 10 players pick this up as their starting item in some matches, just because it's not only valuable to tanks, but also as supports and even hybrids, kind of like a lot of Amanas as well, starting out with this and moving into Warrior Tabby. So I'm happy to see the adjustment. Some of these starting items that they, kind of like the cookie cutter starting items that we saw introduced into the game several patches ago, I'm happy to start to see some of these adjustments to them.
Absolutely. It's a pretty big adjustment here, so I doubt we'll see as many Mark of the Vanguards as we did before, and it makes it much less useful. So the next thing is Vampiric Shroud did end up getting changed as well. This had its magical power increase from 10 to 20. So what they're doing is, like I touched on earlier, there wasn't really much of a perfect, 750 gold item in the beginning for other characters besides tanks with the Mark of the Vanguard. So they nerfed the Mark of the Vanguard, made Death's Toll better, and made Vampiric Shroud better. So maybe we'll see more Vampiric Shrouds picked up. Maybe we'll see more Death's Toll picked up. So it does, there's going to be a 750 gold starter item for pretty much all archetypes in this game. So you have the Death's Toll, the Vampiric Shroud, and the Mark of the Vanguard. You can see they all have 100 HP on the Mark of the Vanguard, 100 HP on the Vampiric Shroud, and then the Death's Toll will have 90 HP. So they all have pretty comparable HP increases, plus a little bit increase. I mean, the Death's Toll does increase, give you health and mana, and also the Vampiric Shroud will as well. The Death's Toll does it on hit, and the Vampiric Shroud will do it on kill, give you a little bit more than the other one does as well. So it's interesting, and we'll see if this does, if we see Vampiric Shroud or Death's Toll picked up more often, and kind of fitting into that slot of the Mark of the Vanguard that was picked up pretty much across the board.
Yep. No, I think that's a very good assessment of all of that actually coming together.
So the next thing we're going to head into is general balance changes, and there's only 4 of them here, but who doggy? It's some interesting stuff. So the first thing is base and per level attack speeds have been reduced for all tanks. So this means that all tanks will have slower attack speeds overall in the beginning and will gain less as they level. So you won't see as much damage output for characters like Sobek, like Bacchus, like Amir. I mean, I don't think it's gonna reduce everyone's favorite physical power, Amir. Running across the map, slapping people with your club. So I mean, it's kind of. I'm glad that they're touching the fact that tanks have a little bit too much going for them. This wasn't, the biggest problem in the world, but adjusting this does help out. Do you have any experience with this?
I'm happy to see this adjustment. The reason being is several patches back, we started to see, and I had actually discussed, if you guys have seen the one episode, where I'm eager to see the game get back to where it originally was, where gods had very specific roles. Your tanks were true tanks. They weren't very good at DPS, but man, could they take the damage. And I feel, and then when we saw some adjustments recently being made, like with Sobek's physical power getting taken off. So I'm happy to see here a little bit more fine-tuning to move tanks more in a direction of a soul role compared to, hey, well, this tank can kind of go half and half and can DPS pretty dang good, but can sustain itself. So I think this is necessary. I'm very eager to see if they make any additional adjustments to support classes or DPSers. What about you? Did you feel that tanks needed this attack speed adjustment?
A little bit, and this will affect their laning phase more than anything else. So, we'll see how that does get implemented in the game.
Okay.
But it was more for, like if you get a good slow off with a mirror in the early stages of the game, the extra bonus from your passive does a lot of damage. So it was pretty important to adjust that. It's not really affect everything overall. It might affect some troll builds, but it does make their laning phase weaker, which we did have, this kind of thing where, tanks had the Hannah Montana effect where they had the best of both worlds pretty much. So, it was pretty important to adjust that. So the next change here is gold spooling, which means your natural gold tick per second has been changed from 3 gold per second to 2 gold per second. I believe it started at 2, went up to 3, and then at one patch they didn't even put it in the notes. They just pumped it up to 4, and no one had any idea. So it was a big adjustment there. So gold is going up. So now it's back down to 2. So a very low amount of gold per second. So you get 2 gold per second. So this means you're going to get less gold naturally. So it's going to put more emphasis on getting objectives, getting buffs, and farming effectively rather than just I'm just farmed because I'm farmed type thing. So this will overall affect everything else. Do you have any any specifics on that or anything you like about it?
Yeah, I'm happy to see this adjustment. Reason being is because now what we're going to do is how quickly that these players are getting towards end game items will be a little bit slower. The gold able to be picked up per second is going to be a lot less. So it's kind of slowing down the item game per se. No, I think I didn't see this and go, oh wow, this was extremely necessary to go from 3 to 2. But I definitely think it's something very valuable to point out, and we'll have to see in the next week, like, oh, are we noticing this? Like, hey, a lot of people aren't getting to that late game item, that last item or not. So, did you think we needed it? Do you think we had too much gold mid game?
Yeah, I like this addition and I like this kind of involvement. And you can see on screen, I pull up 2 calculators for you. So you can see in a 30-minute game on the old gold spilling at 3 per second, you would get 5,400 gold passively from the game in a 30-minute game. However, now with the new gold spooling, you'd only get 3,600. So you see, 1,800 gold lost there just from passively. So you're losing almost 2,000 gold passively from this adjustment, just from adjusting that one thing. This isn't a 30-minute game, so obviously, if you go to like a 40-minute game, or like even you can do 45, 8,100, and this one would be just a lot of cool stuff there. So I mean it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but if you look at it, at a 45-minute game, it's going to be 8,100 versus 5,400, so almost a 3,000 gold loss just from adjusting that from 3 to 2. So passively you'll get much less gold, which means that you're going to get farmed much less quickly, or a lot slower than you would. So it's kind of those things where it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you look at it empirically, or even just look at the numbers, it really add up a lot to overall gold numbers. And just playing that out, you will notice how slow your gold goes up. You'll think, why don't I have my 3rd item by now? Why don't I have my 4th item by now? It's just going to be one of those things. They did add a few more things that does adjust to this, but just base, you won't get as much gold. So the next thing that does play into this specifically is for each enemy tower destroyed, players get a 5% gold bonus stacking up to 30%. So you'll get less passive gold, but you will get more gold for, if you get the towers down and push everything down as the game goes late. So what they're trying to do here is make it so it's less, razor thin in the beginning because you had a lot of gold and you carried out. But as the game goes later and later and you start destroying more towers and start coming down to the wire, you'll get more gold. So we're trying to speed up the end of it. So it does seem like they're kind of stretching out the early game and the mid game and trying to speed up the late game. So you don't really have this back and forth going all the time, and it's more focused on having a stable early game for more even exchanges, and then more comebacks, and then for like an easier finish as you start pushing things down.
Yeah, I'm very. It's great to see that it's becoming a little bit more, as you said, like objective based. Here, instead of you're seeing a lot of value, especially early game, to be focusing these towers because of the gold adjustment. So this will be nice.
Absolutely. Big change there. So I'm excited to have that in there, and we'll see if it does change the pace, and especially something we'll see as Shoutcaster as well. After a player engages the Minotaur, this is a pretty big change. If the Minotaur resets, he will gain 15% of his maximum HP. The Minotaur can no longer be kited outside the temple. So this kind of changes the end of the game. A lot of times the Minotaur would just leave his home, and as the minions constantly were streaming in, the Minotaur would just stay out by the Phoenix. And it kind of had this effect where positioning wise, it's almost like the end of the game hinged on you defending a Phoenix versus the end of the game hinged on you defending your well type thing. So the Minotaur wandering out and staying out there for minutes at a time was really, really detrimental to you defending and holding down the game. So it's pretty important to adjust that. But the 50% of his maximum HP if a player resets him is pretty interesting. So it kind of means that if you're having repeated attempts on the Minotaur, it's going to keep regenerating. So you need to be careful on when you push in and make it more solidified as you end the game, rather than I'm just going to poke the Minotaur and keep poking him and eventually he's just going to die type thing. So how do you feel about this?
I definitely think it was necessary. It definitely makes defending much easier when you can rely on your Minotaur's health to regain, just to make some adjustments there for the maximum health. So I think this is great. It could be fine-tuned even more. We're going to have to see how much value it holds in the game as we start to see some of these games in the next week or two where holding holding defensively with only 2 players up versus 5, what exactly this does for those 2 defending players.
Absolutely, it's going to be a pretty big change, and we'll see how it does end up. And we'll feel the difference in our shoutcasting as well.
So finally, the last part of the patch is the god adjustments, and we'll go ahead and take these one god at a time. So Anher, attack speed increased slightly, doesn't tell you how much, just slightly, and cripple. That's all it says. Passive name has been changed to enfeeble. So attack speed just says it was slightly. I assume this is on his basic attack. Did you think his basic attack needed the adjustment?
It did seem like he had a slower attack speed than other ranged physical carries. He did hit a little harder. Had that passive, and obviously the name of the passive got changed to avoid all confusion because it was originally called cripple, which is now the new CC effect. So they didn't want to think that passive had cripple on it, which it doesn't, because that would be really ridiculous if your basic attack applied cripple. That would be a little bit intense. So they changed that name to avoid confusion. But now they have it so that attack speed does increase. So on her, we'll have a little bit better late game protections and a little bit more damage output as well as the game scales. So we'll see how that does affect him in general.
Our second god is Ares, and we've seen a few adjustments to Ares in the last few patches, but for this patch, the adjustment was more focused on shackles. Movement abilities are no longer usable when players are shackled. So to give you an example here, Ares goes ahead and shackles you as Agni, and you go ahead and pop Sprint to try to get away. Is it going to cancel it? Are you not going to be able to use it? It's going to be X'd out, kind of what they added in the last few patches where, if you're silenced, it will show over top of your abilities. Like you can't actually click them, like nothing happens. I don't know if this is the case. I'm just guessing. What are your thoughts? Does that seem pretty accurate, or do you think it just won't go off, or what are your thoughts?
I think in the changes section they explicitly say that beads is the only thing that removes the cripple status, so you won't be able to pull that off with sprint, but you will be able to continue sprint. I think it won't adjust your movement speed. It'll just prevent you from jumping or dashing or anything like that. So I think sprint will allow you to keep on sprinting, but the shackles, and this makes Ares just. God, it terrifies my soul because if you think about it, he can have 3 players shackled at once if he lands all 3 on different players. So he just run in and shackle 3 players, and now none of them can dash, jump, leap, go into the ground, and come out from the underworld or anything like that. So I mean, it's pretty scary for characters that rely on that heavily to have an Ares in their face, preventing 3 people from dashing and doing anything of that nature.
Yeah, I was really sad when Ares. Alt actually had an adjustment to the distance that the enemy player was pulled. So I like his comeback here. As you said, this is very scary. We'll see how long it stays and sticks. But let's go ahead and move on to the third god here, Artemis. Transgressor's Fate is the name of the ability here. Movement abilities are no longer usable when players are stuck in her traps. Did you see this as a problem?
Yeah, I mean, her traps were pretty poor as far as effectiveness goes. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just why does she have this trap in the first place? And with the removal of focus, it made it a little bit better. But the fact that characters that could step on the trap and then just jump away meant that it was pretty much of a problem. It was a pretty big problem for Artemis specifically, just because you have characters you trap Wukong, he jumps away, or anything like that. The same thing happened with Neith. You could root him and they'd jump away. So I mean, this addresses the problem of people just being able to have movement speeds and being infallible to getting caught. And now they have a pretty serious problem where if they get caught, they're pretty much caught until that cripple effect goes away. So it's pretty important for characters like Artemis to have that, who doesn't have any movement abilities herself.
That's very true. And then Cupid, which this is kind of scary. Attack speed increased slightly. And the reasons I say scary is because late game, Cupid's basic attack is quite quick, depending on those items that you build. And now it's actually been adjusted to be even faster. And then finally, on Fields of Love, movement abilities are no longer usable when players are in his fields. So 2 different things there. What's your thoughts on both?
Cupid was really weak as far as damage output. He's one of those characters that really couldn't match anyone else's damage output, and his kit wasn't as strong as others either. So now the fact that you can't jump out of his Fields of Love means that he's a lot more powerful in team fights. It was pretty important for him to have that, and now Cupid's going to be much stronger. Just those two changes means that his damage output is going to be greater, and his ultimate is going to be a lot scarier. A lot of times you'd have even like tanks, you'd have Sobek dash away, you'd have all these characters that had a slight ability to move out. I mean, that's all it really took, is just a small movement ability to get out of his ultimate, and now his ultimate, I mean, even with the fact that his ultimate has a very light or weak CC, the Mesmerize, especially with the fact that so much AoE is going on during a team fight, that the Mesmerize is most likely going to get broken on accident, with even like a monkey, Furious Monkey on accident, or a Chain Lightning or something, well, just going to pop that. So the fact that his ultimate really wasn't that powerful before means that it's pretty important that you keep people in it, and at least guarantee the Mesmerize, because the Mesmerize isn't that powerful anyway. So this is going to make Cupid a lot more powerful, and I'm wondering if he'll start getting picked up just because of this.
And then jumping on to Hades here, Pillar of Agony. The strength of the pull from his ultimate has been adjusted to be stronger initially to reduce the frequency of players being able to walk out of it. So this is kind of scary. That's going to be even stronger. But I understand where it comes from, where if you were kind of on the outskirts or right around there, where you could just go ahead and walk directly out of it and you weren't necessarily affected. Did you see this as a problem?
Yeah, big problem. It's one of those things where there's so many ways to get off of Hades' ultimate, whether it be with leaps, dashes, beads, Aegis Aimant to prevent the pull, or literally if you're on the outskirts, you can just walk off. So it's like, it's one of those things where Hades is a very strong character, and he's going to be much stronger now, so I'm wondering if he'll get picked up more often as support tanks. Hades himself is a very strong counter to Bacchus, and Bacchus is a very common physical carry, or support tank in the side lanes anyway. So I'm wondering if Hades will get picked up a lot more now with his ultimate being improved there. So it was a pretty big problem. I mean, a lot of times you can't get them, close to the epicenter with positioning and how mobile characters are. But there were just too many things available for people to walk off the ultimate or get off it. So now this means that his ultimate is more formidable.
Yeah. The second to last god here, Hercules, Driving Strike. The base damage of this ability has been increased from 80, 130, 180, 230, and 280 to 85, 155, 225, 295, and 365. So to give you an idea, the original when it's maxed out was 280. Now it's 365. And then the second adjustment to it, the physical power contributions of this ability has been increased from 60% to 90%. So this is quite a huge change for this ability. A little strong, a little scary right here, because this is a lot. Like, it's not just, hey, I'm going to relocate you by using this ability. It's going to hurt. Thoughts on that?
I like it. So what they're trying to do, and this is evidence of them reducing the range from his Earthbreaker and making the damage on his ultimate better, and reducing the cooldown or increasing the cooldown on his 3, and then obviously doing more damage and more scaling to his Driving Strike. It seems like they don't like the fact that the manliest of all men is a support tank. It seems like they're trying to focus him more on damage with the scaling and the reduction of his initiation abilities and all that kind of stuff. It seems like they want him to be more of a brawler / damage dealer versus just being a support tank, which didn't really fit conceptually with his character. The fact that he was just the guy that ran around, initiated, and took damage. So it seems like they want him to be more of a brawler damage dealer, and I kind of agree with that. I like it physically, just because I like doing damage and killing kids with giant rocks. So we'll see if that damage does really benefit. I mean, 60% to 90% is a huge increase in scaling. Not to mention that the increase in base damage as well, plus the increase in base damage of his ultimate. I mean, it just seems like Hercules is just going to be a beast now as far as damage output goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed playing Hercules when he first came out. Now, granted, there were some things that were a little too strong, but I'm happy to see some adjustments made and them actually taking Hercules in the right direction. So the final god for this patch and the final note for this patch was Odin, and specifically on Rings of Spears, which was his ult. Odin is immune to all crowd control while inside of his ring. I'm very thrilled about this. I think it was definitely necessary. I mean, he's in an ult. We saw this kind of similar adjustment to Anher more recently with his ult. Did you see Odin having problems with his ult and having problems with crowd control?
A bunch, yeah. It was pretty ridiculous. Hebo was probably the biggest counter to to Odin in his ultimate. Number one, the floodwaters will slow you when you're inside your ring of spears, which is the most frustrating thing in the world. And the other thing is his water spout will actually knock you up into the air. So it's so easy for a Hebo who doesn't get trapped in the spears or get focused to just sit outside and play, support and just like slow you down and knock you up into the air and basically waste the entire duration of your ultimate if you're trying to get a solo kill. Obviously, the ultimate still has the entrapment potential for team fights and whatnot, but it was just so annoying to be knocked up in the air. Or you go inside and you trap a Sobek on accident and the Sobek tail whips you and you're like, well, that was just a quarter of the duration of my ultimate just because he pressed 2. It was just really, really obnoxious have that effectiveness. I mean, now he's fully immune to all CC, which is important. So now his ultimate is kind of be fit into that role that really should be for the initiation. And I'm in my arena, you're in my arena, you're in my hometown, so you're gonna be more careful now. So I mean, it does seem like it was silly that Odin just threw down his arena and flexed his muscles and took some steroids. Oh wait, sure. I'm wet. Okay, I can't kill anybody. So it was pretty annoying.
Yeah. So that pretty much concludes the patch for today, guys. We're going to take, just because we're kind of running long here, an hour and a half, we'll take 3 questions from the chat. We haven't really had any questions specifically aimed towards the show in the YouTube comments. So if you guys do have any comments or questions or anything like that, put them in the comments of the YouTube videos that will be up here in the next day or two from Dry Bear of this episode so that we can address them next episode. But we'll go ahead and take 3 questions, and I will let Dry Bear go ahead and take them from chat.
Feelings on goal changes for casual play, I think is important. It was just so easy to snowball, and a lot of times, unless you were playing against a competitive team, the games would be ended like immediately. Just because the ability to farm was so easy that a lot of times once you got a lead in the beginning, you just kept getting more and more of a lead. It did help the people who were behind, but slowing the early game down really does help the games be more balanced. So I do enjoy that change as well. Yeah,
no, I completely agree there with that gold adjustment.
Will Ares be nerfed soon because of his cripple? I haven't played him, but I do think that Ares does need some kind of, Ares needs to have something about him that gives the enemies pause. He doesn't really have anything. His ultimate's easily countered. His shackles can be jumped out of. His damage output's good, but that's about it. So he needs to have something that's like, oh god, Ares is coming. We need to be careful because his ultimate is just so easily countered and so easily dealt with. You really need a good comp to be able to deal with it, and a lot of times you wouldn't have that. So it's pretty important to have that there. So I don't think Ares will be nerfed. I think this is a very good change for Ares and make him more powerful and more viable, which really he only had a small subset of capabilities that he could fit into, and beyond that he really wasn't very useful in a very even game. So that I think that is he's not going to be changed for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think back when I originally started to when Ares first came out and I played Ares, people ran away because of his ult, and once that adjustment was made to the distance of his ult, he kind of became okay. So I don't know. Will it come back to putting that distance back in to put the fear of God in some people when they see Ares again? I don't know. I understand that distance was a little long, but you got to think of it now. Can you imagine Ares with the full distance that he had originally, and then the fact that now we have Aegis and Beads at 180 seconds? His ult would be disgusting.
Yeah, it would be pretty dirty.
So, but yes, as you said, very dirty and not something that would be completely balanced out.
So the next thing too, this next question here, just take this as the last question.
Sure.
Do you think that Motivate will help laning in competitive, or will people still get Girdle and the defensive items? I think this will change lineups. I think this will change builds. I mean, I think this we'll see the introduction of push lineups where you just go for pushing more than anything else. You can go for very heavy push lineups, especially with like a heal. If you went for like a triple heal with 2 or 3 motivates, I think you could easily push down towers and get Phoenixes very early on. So I'm wondering, if we're going to see some competitive teams pick up that kind of lineup where you go heavy heals and heavy heavy motivates, just trying to push down and just get the push advantage early on, especially with the added benefit that the more towers you have down, the more gold you get. So I honestly think that within the next month, or maybe if people start figuring it out, I think we'll start seeing more pushing lineups than anything else.
Yeah, this ability has a lot of gank potential as well. If you're coming into lane and you're trying to gank middle lane, this will be interesting. I'm really eager to see how competitive players actually use this item. I would hate for it to drop off I think it'll be. I mean, I haven't played it enough. I haven't played it all today to see how effective it is. Something eager would be to us to touch on it in like a week or so, or next time there's a show, and actually, say, hey, what have we seen from Motivate? Is it something that's getting used, or I mean, both of us are casting tournaments. You're casting a few tournaments this weekend, right? Yes,
Yeah.
So I mean, both of us are casting tournaments this weekend, so we'll have to see. Did this item just drop off and it's nothing crazy, or is it something that's super effective? So I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. So that's going to be our last question, guys. We're going to go ahead and do our gem giveaway now. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's not going to be any option for you because that already happened. But in chat, do you have a hashtag for me?
Oh, hashtag. Let's see. Let's just do hashtag update. Nothing too crazy, nothing too exciting. We'll just do hashtag update for this week.
Hashtag update.
In the meantime, guys, want to encourage you guys, if you guys came into this show late, please make sure that if you want to catch the entire show in its entirety, please make sure you go check us out on iTunes. One of the listeners actually filled me in on this, that I'd like you guys to go on iTunes and rate us. You can rate us from 1 star to 5 stars. 5 stars helps us the most. Anything below 5 stars, I found out, actually hurts against you. So even if we get 4 stars, it's actually a negative review. So please go out there, give us some recommendations. Let other people on iTunes know why they should check out the show, because we haven't received enough reviews on iTunes yet in order to give us like an overall rating, and then it'll appropriately stack us up against other game podcast out there. So anyways, please go to iTunes. I put the link in chat. I'll put it one more time. It'll be in the comments of the VOD on there. And we're looking to give you guys several different outlets for this show. One, we're giving it to you in audio only, so you can listen to it on the way to work, or you can listen to it at the gym, or listen to it at work if you have that ability. We're giving it to you live, so you can check it out. And then we're also giving it to you on YouTube, so you can check out the entire show, including the video. So going ahead and checking out iTunes would be awesome. And please go ahead and rate us, give us some reviews. We truly would appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get on to why everyone's here. You're not here to see us. You're here for the gems. Come on now.
Let's go ahead and roll in 3, 2, 1. Boom! Box V2. Do you want some gems, man?
Nah, I don't want any. You can give it on to somebody else.
Give me the box. Give me the box.
So we'll see if he replies.
Yeah, he wants them.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Now he just needs to give you your in-game name.
Send me your in-game name, sir. Okay. So, let's go ahead and do an intro and just go do any shout-outs for you as we close up.
Sure, definitely. So I'll go ahead and go first. I'll let you go ahead and close it out. If you guys want to check me out, I will be casting the My Revenge tournament this upcoming weekend, and I have a few other things in the pipeline right now. So if you're not checking me out just on Twitch in general, you can check me out on my Twitch channel. I do some replay casting and also live casting over there, along with some gameplay. Twitch.tv/OctanePro, SCII. You can also check me out on YouTube. I upload a lot of videos, not as much as what Drybear does, but a lot of videos of upcoming games. So what I've started to do is I've had people message me on Twitch, on YouTube, and say, hey, I just had an awesome game. I'd love for you to cast it. I don't care if you are the top players out there or if you're just starting out. As long as your game has the view replay button on the stat screen, I will cast your game for you. I'll add it to my list. And what that does is that gets put up on YouTube. So my YouTube is youtube.com/OctanePro, SCII as well. And then finally check me out on Twitter, twitter.com/OctanePro, SC2. What about you, Drybear? What are you up to this upcoming weekend, and where can people check you out?
I'll do the BLG Casual on Sunday. I also stream for High Res every morning on Eastern for 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Eastern. So you check me out on the SMITE game channel. Mondays through Fridays in the mornings, so you can check me out there as I do stream. If you're awake at that time, or if you're a different time slot and that's not so early for you, you can check me out as I do that. So I'll be doing the BLG Casual this weekend and all that kind of stuff. As always, I mean, you know where to find me. I'm all over the place. Twitter, Drybear Gamers, YouTube, Drybear Gamers, Twitch, Drybear, and then Facebook, Drybear Gamers, all kinds of stuff. If you're watching this, you probably know where I'm at. So that's where I'm going to be, and then that's pretty much going to be it for us. As always, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next Smite update.